Agenda changes. Do you have any recommended changes to this evening's agenda? Oh, all right. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Preschool District hereby accept the agenda as presented. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
You all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstentions. Now we move on to board president's remarks. I'm going to do a brief update on the superintendent search. So district-wise is going to offer another community forum. This one will only be on Zoom. They had one before the break and it was not really well attended. No one came from the public. So this is another opportunity. We're looking at next Wednesday on Zoom to have community participate, share your voice. You are also able to send an email at any time. They're completely confidential. The information and feedback will be shared in a comprehensive report with the board. So I encourage the community to attend. District-wise is closing. I believe they've extended the application until the 20th due to the forum. It was originally set to close January 17th. As applicants come in, you can all see them. One thing I did want to address is our interview schedule. I know I've sent out some dates and I just wanted to confirm with everyone the dates we are looking at. Monday, March 4th at 6 o'clock. Wednesday, March 6th at 6 o'clock. Thursday, March 7th at 6 o'clock. So it'll be a whole week of fun. Let me know. It looks like we're going to need 3 dates. If we don't need the 3 dates, we will drop the 7th. But I think those are the ones that work best for everyone. And then callbacks for second round would be on Monday, March 11th currently. And we have the 14th penciled in, but we're hoping not to need that. I really think we're going to be able to do this with just the 11th is my hope. So those are the dates we're looking at. Later on this evening, we're going to talk more about the March business meeting schedule, because I know this is a lot of time up front. If you have any major conflicts with those dates, please let me know as soon as possible.
Will those meetings be here?
The current plan is to have those meetings here at 6 o'clock. So the local, if 6 o'clock is a problem, let me know soon too. We can push it to 7. They've recommended 6 just so we don't go all night, but we can.
How long are we expecting for this?
It's looking like 2 interviews each night. So hopefully we'll be out of here like by 9 or 10. But how much we want to talk after each round. Again, last time we did this, it was on Zoom during COVID. So I don't have a great sense as to.
We were pretty bleary by the end.
Yeah, but nobody had anywhere else to go, so we could stay on Zoom. There's no like. So I think this hopefully we can keep it streamlined. We'll be doing questions, all of that. We'll be prepared in advance, so we'll know what we're doing. It's not like we show up and don't have a game plan. But again, let me know if there's any issues with the dates because we want everybody there for that. All right. That's all I have on the superintendent search. If you have any questions, let me know, let Joanne, let Rob know, please, anytime. Okay. Superintendent remarks.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. We have not convened in over a month. However, I thought it would be important to recognize a tragedy that occurred, and the board is well aware of this. But we haven't publicly recognized that 2 local students from Haldane were in a tragic car accident, as you know, on December 15th. And Vlad Sabin lost his life. He was a Haldane senior. And Teresa Timmons, who actually graduated here from Garrison, is currently in 11th grade, sustained some very serious injuries and is in Westchester Medical Center still. And we just want her and her family to know that our thoughts are with them. There's been a lot of support here. Her parents have been here. We're in contact with the family, and our counselors have been wonderful. They deserve some recognition as well. And the Haldane crisis team, we partnered their psychologists and guidance counselors and ours, and just did a phenomenal job in supporting not only our families but you know, the students and siblings as well. So I think it was just important to recognize that publicly. On a different topic, very different topic, ELA performance. For the first time in quite some time, the state is ranking student performance. So a couple of weeks back, we learned that Garrison students, grades 3 through 8, on their ELA performance last spring, ranked number 19 out of 661 school districts statewide. That places Garrison in the top 3% of student performance, which is very, very impressive. So I think, credit goes to our faculty, certainly our leadership team, but really the teachers in the classroom. They are doing fantastic work.
How have we ranked over the last couple of years? Is it similar to what we had before?
David, during COVID, there was a partial testing year, there was a no testing year, but they weren't ranking. So years back they did, but then they discontinued it, but now they are once again. So I think it was very validating. Most schools throughout the state are in transition. So balanced literacy is the widely accepted approach to teaching ELA, but we've learned in recent years that the science of reading, which is phonemic awareness, phonetics, vocabulary, is very important, and we may have shifted too far away from that. So there is a shift back to that. And in fact, the governor has basically set a goal that every district has to embrace the science of reading in their curriculum, in their instruction, in their professional development by 2025. That we're ahead of the curve on this one. We have been integrating phonics and phonemic awareness and word study into our programs, and I think that's why we're getting such strong results. But there probably will be a little more work to do as far as refining our ELA program. In fact, today, our principal, Allison Mig, was at a workshop at Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES. There's a Harvard professor there, Jen may have been there.
There was a statewide meeting on the literacy initiative that every BOCES hosted districts across the state.
And she was just a few messages that it was very, very informative as well as validating as far as some of the work that we've been doing. Next meeting, we have invited Allison to give a bit more information about this initiative. And I do think as we get into the budget process, we want to make sure that there is some money budgeted to continue and support this initiative going forward.
Clarify, we do have a formal curriculum in place for, I believe, grades K to 2, the foundation.
Yes.
Curriculum that has been for several years.
Yes.
Predating COVID, correct? That's the phonics programs we were referring.
Absolutely, yes. Foundations is being used. Our teachers are very, very comfortable and well trained in using that. And again, I think that's what has contributed to solid results. So we're in a position where I don't think we need to feel tremendous pressure to dramatically change what we're doing. I see it more as a refinement of what is already in place and working well based on the test results. Different topic, high school choices. The board is aware, but I thought publicly we should inform our community that the 3 high schools, all parents have made their decisions, Haldane, James O'Neill, and Putt Valley. And the breakdown is out of our current 8th grade class. Next year, 6 will be attending Haldane, 1 will be attending O'Neill, and 14 have selected Putt Valley High School. So currently, just to give you a basis of comparison, in the 3 schools, about 60% of our students are in Haldane, 37% are O'Neill, and only 2% in Putt Valley. But that is because we just started to offer that last year. I think it's hard. I've been asked, do you think this is a reflection on what will happen going forward? It's hard to say. According to our guidance counselor, choices have varied here. What I will say is all 3 high schools offer outstanding programs. They all offer something different, And all three did a wonderful job in not only offering parent information sessions, but also inviting our students in, and in some cases, inviting them back a second time if tours were requested. And they were very happy to do so. So that was helpful because I think our students, as well as their families, really were able to make informed decisions.
Very dramatic number about
Yes.
the second year, right? But can you say something about what it was about Putt Valley that made it so appealing to so many students and their parents?
Well, Putt Valley, I think one program that was of high interest is the IB program. And that is slightly different. That's not offered in our other two high schools. They do have rigorous courses, but it's more traditional AP courses. IB is less common throughout New York State. But I think a lot of people were very impressed with that, is some of the feedback I received. But it's a range. I think the music program I heard was of interest to some. Research, I know some of the research, and it's not that the other high schools don't offer that. Also, the facility is very impressive there. So it shows well. It's about 20 years old, and the campus and the school itself is really beautiful. But again, the other two I think offer an awful lot, and this could change year to year. I don't know that this is necessarily an indicator of what choices will be in the future.
Do you have any other questions for Carl?
I have just one more. I'm going to turn it over to Dusty. So New York State, and in fact, Erin Morris notified us of this, and thank you, Erin, for being so proactive. The New York State Early Mail Voter Act, trying to encourage and make voting more accessible to more people. But Dusty's going to give you some more detail about how she's proactively preparing for this.
As Carl mentioned, the Early Mail Voter Act was signed into law by the governor on September the 20th. And the change in the statute now requires school districts to provide early voting for our school budget votes and board elections and any other special referenda that we would happen to have, in any given year. So what's going to happen with this is the timeline for this pretty much mirrors the same timeline as the absentee voting, where voters have to apply to request an absentee ballot. They'll also have to fill out an application to request an early mail voter ballot. So that's just going to require me to also create a separate ballot for early voters, and it'll be distinctive in noting on the ballot that it's an official ballot, but it's an early voter ballot. Same with the absentees as well. And I believe you cannot receive a request more than 30 days prior to the date of the vote. I have a media release that's going to go out on March the 1st so that we can more inform the public as well. We'll have it posted on the website, and we'll make an effort to make sure that the public is informed of this new thing. I know some of the other clerks were bantering back and forth about, how to get the word out. And I think as long as we continue to talk about it in board meetings and notify, our parents and our local community, they should be well aware. So we're in good shape to move forward with that.
Is it only early mail in voting, or is there an in-person component as well? Or?
We'll still have the regular in person. This just gives them an
early
option.
in person?
No, it's only by mail. It's not early in person at all. That would create a whole other set of dynamics that would be really challenging for school districts. It's only by mail.
Any other questions? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead then and move on to our board communications and presentations. We're going to begin this evening with a computer science and digital literacy standards presentation. Mr. Gale, the podium is yours.
All right. So New York came up with the idea of computer science and digital fluency standards at an inopportune time. They announced this months before the pandemic hit, and so it's been kind of a slow rollout. But the idea is good, and I'm going to kind of take you through it. And this presentation, I definitely took some slides from some other places and kind of combined some of my own ideas into this. So the idea is to establish grade bands and to establish standards so that it just doesn't hit at the high school level or at a certain grade level, but it's spread out across all grade levels. And they do say that who's responsible is all K-12 educators. How we implement them is really up to every single school district. And what I've heard from colleagues is, and what I've experienced myself, is a lot of these standards are already in, especially the area of math. So this was the rollout that they announced toward the beginning of 2020, and then they were said, okay, well, we'll do an awareness building, and they never really changed the timeline. They just kept it the same and kind of ignored some of the events that were going on at the same time. So they did an awareness building in 20 and 21. Some professional development as BOCES started to ramp up from 21 to 23. The first year of the implementation is just computer science, which is just at the high school level only. It's not at the elementary level. So our first year of full implementation actually is September of 2024. We have already started to broach the topic with teachers. Leslie Denabrio is teaching our students at the middle school level a lot about digital literacy. So we're well on our way. So there are different grade band expectations, like I said before. These are the main areas. Impacts of computing, computational thinking. The computational thinking is where the math is the heaviest. Networks and system design, cybersecurity, and then digital literacy. So these are the areas that make up the digital learning standards. And they sound a lot more scary than they actually are. They're, you know, when we're talking networks and systems design, it's really just, I would put a much more emphasis on the system design and not as much on the network. Network, we think of computers and that kind of thing, and there's definitely a component of that as you go up the grade levels, but it's more about systems than anything else. In cybersecurity, yes, it sounds like a big word, but it's at the elementary level, you're talking about passwords and sharing of information with other students, student to student, that kind of thing. So it's not as challenging, or we're not adding a whole other subject to the curriculum. So the impacts of computing, you know, all of us have computers in our pockets right now, and I'm sure you've all heard the statistics. You know, what's in your pocket right now is more than what was on the Apollo rockets. So, like, the computing power that students are exposed to on a daily basis is just unbelievable, and it's more pointing it out to them. What is the computers that are around them, and what is the impact of those computers on their daily lives? Computational thinking. I have another slide that I'll kind of talk to now, and that's the computational thinking is really math. That's the easiest way of saying it, and it's more the gift of vocabulary. And there's another slide that I'll show you that has a lot of the vocabulary on it. Networks and systems, like I said, it's more just about how do systems work, how are things put together. And especially at the K-1 level, it's very simple communication and pieces put together. Cybersecurity, what are some risks, what are some safeguards to protect your own information? Digital literacy, This is the main area that Ms. D'Onofrio is teaching our students about, just how to research, how to live in the digital age, and some different skills that can help them moving forward. So this is how it's kind of separated out as far as the grade bands and the amount of topics. And then here are some basic ideas for these 5 areas. You know, it doesn't have to be in just math or science or a separate technology course. It can really be interwoven into art, ELA, health, social studies, and that's the main emphasis that the state is really focusing on, especially in grades K through 8. Once you get into the high school, then they're talking about computer science and specific computer science courses. So this is the vocabulary that I was talking about that that a teacher might not use right now, but this is what they're looking for at like a K1, K2 level, as far as different words that students could be exposed to. Not that they have to understand them, but that they have to be exposed to. So instead of saying, going from this step to this step to this step, it's, okay, let's look at this algorithm and how it's put together. So it's just changing words to bring in some of the technology vocabulary, but the concepts themselves are something that most students are exposed to already. So it can be a lot of the technology, especially at the K1 level, but throughout the elementary, does not have to be on the computer. So it can be simple projects like Pen Pals or Email Pals, the Flat Stanley project, those kind of things as far as just exposing students to different kinds of communication, different kinds of technology, VR, AR, artificial intelligence, that kind of thing. Computational thinking, again, simple coding, sequencing of events. What happens first? What happens second? What happens third? This is something that our students actually do very well with, and that's why they do well on the ELA exam, because this is a major, major component on a lot of the ELA exams, is what is happening when in the story. Just even some other things, just organizing data as far as like calendar, classroom jobs, word of the week. This is, you know, what it looks like in reality. So when you look at the standards at first, they seem a little daunting, but when you actually start to give examples, it makes it a lot easier. Again, some of the examples can be overlapping. So the same pen pals that you're using for communication can also be around system design and how are those communications getting to other people. Just basic, how do you do basic charting, basic graphs, that kind of thing as far as systems design, cybersecurity, what are passwords, why are they needed, what is a strong password, and password is not the answer for a strong password, or computer for that matter.
Can I just ask, when you're, some ideas on all these slides are ideas that you're suggesting our faculty implement? That's what you're meaning with some ideas?
These are, most of these ideas are ideas from the state, and then I worked with Jennifer Wilson as well as PNW BOCES to put together just the first one for K1, which is what this is, and it's just different ideas.
Okay.
So it's not that we have to implement all of them. There's no exam on this. There's no, you know, anything related to it yet.
Isn't this going to involve a fair amount of professional development for the teaching staff? And what do you do about that?
Well, on the last superintendent's conference day, I led some professional development where I had spent hours over the summer and went standard by standard and put hyperlinks in a document and allowed the teachers to look through all the different resources. We have one resource now called Nearpod that Ms. D'Onofrio uses, but other teachers use as well, where a lot of this is already broken down. And the big thing we did is that a lot of this is already in our curriculum. I would say about 80 to 90% of it. It's just changing vocabulary more than anything else. So it's not, like I said, it's not adding a whole other subject area.
Which grades currently do that new course this year, the digital literacy course? I believe it's middle school level.
Yes.
What is incorporated into that?
Ms. D'Onofrio is putting it together as she goes, but Nearpod has a whole part of their database that's totally aligned to New York State. So she's taking a lot of the lessons there, but there's way more lessons than what she could cover. And so she's just kind of taking them as she goes and really listening to the students and figuring out what the student interests are. We had also Ryan from Desmond Fish Library come and show some technology, that kind of thing. And some of this is also stuff that Miss Arbor does with, we now have the 3D printer working. So she's showing them, and some of the STEAM stuff definitely is encompassed in this as well. So there's a lot of overlap. It's really slight tweaks and switches in vocabulary more than anything else. So there's different coding where, you know, they can, you can see how, you know, this has been around since as long as I can remember. But so when we're talking coding, we're not talking if-then statements or, you know, C++. We're looking at something this simple, especially at the early elementary level. Digital literacy, like I said, is, you know, like practicing keyboarding, practicing different high frequency words, that kind of thing for digital literacy. And then there are other coding as well as other things that are out there. You know, a lot of our teachers use Seesaw or Google Classroom. We do have BrainPop Junior. We're starting to, Ms. D'Onofrio is starting to experiment with Tinkercad. So these are all different things that in the digital literacy area that we're looking at. That's it. Any other questions?
Are these, do the standards address things like online safety?
Yes.
You know, at
Yes.
overviews and all that kind of
Yes,
stuff?
yes, and that's definitely some of the things that Ms. D'Onofrio is looking at. As far as, you know, just that online safety, and, you know, how to keep yourself safe.
Yeah, and you mentioned it's AI, but I assume that that's also obviously rapidly evolved, but that's being considered at the development as well.
That's changing by the day.
Yeah.
It's for the middle school because it's now a course that's offered. It's all year they have the digital.
No,
Just per quarter.
to fit it into the schedule in multiple grade levels, we dealt with it in two different ways. One of them is 1 quarter, and then one is 1 letter day across the year. Yeah.
And is there a requirement by the state of like how much they need to?
No.
So that this is just our way of addressing it. It's not like
Just
the
being
state
proactive about it.
Okay.
You know, a lot of schools offer a research course. We don't offer per se a research course, but we do offer now this digital literacy course, which is kind of like the next step forward.
Like a modern day library course.
Yeah.
What else?
I would just add one thing, because we have Jen and James here, and they have connections to the state. There's so many great resources around the standards for educators, but I haven't been able to find anything from state ed for parents. And maybe I've missed it, but I know both of you are in touch with New York State Ed, and with many other initiatives, they do offer resources for parents to support their children. And I have to say, you know, just going through this, and you know, as a parent myself, it's valuable. It really is. And parents, I think, could really use information for how to support their children. So if you ever have an opportunity, please maybe try to make that pitch.
Something that we've talked about internally about offering a parents' night, that kind of thing.
I think there was the Smart Start grant, and out of that came some work for parents, but it's not easy to find. So
Okay.
I think pulling it out would be a good suggestion. I hope we'll make it to the state.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. All right, wraps up the computer science and digital literacy presentation. Now we're moving on to, I'm sure we're all really excited to look at again, the 2023-2024 board goals. We've been really busy this fall, so we have delayed our approval on this, so I'm bringing it back, guys. We've had it posted. There have been some suggestions that have been incorporated into the document you currently have attached to your agenda. For a brief review, board goals currently are listed as goal 1, finance. There's 2 objectives under that. Goal 2 is engagement, 2 objectives under that. Goal 3, community relations, with 2 objectives under that. I can read the whole thing if you'd like, but it's all there for you. How do we feel about these goals? Is this something that we want to change? Do we feel these incorporate what we should be focused on and are currently focused on this year? There was some talk initially about, should we add, I think Emily suggested it, but I don't think it went very far with adding superintendent search. That is basically part of our job, though. It needs to be a goal. It could be considered under engagement. Otherwise, I feel like these sort of address what our board needs to look at. Finance, engagement, community relations. This isn't saying we're doing a great job on any of these yet, but we're trying. Anyone have any thoughts?
Just a question.
Yes.
Are these sort of the level of specificity that are typical of, these board goal statements?
Yes, they're broad in general. They're not really specific action items, I would say. It's much more about, how setting the tone for how we do it. Like, take objective B under finance, continue to seek efficiencies and explore innovative possibilities in the budget process. That's not telling the finance committee exactly how to do their job. You see more of that right now, the finance committee charge than you would in the general board goals. But it's really saying to the community, finance is really at the top of our list. So the question then comes to the board now after writing about this, is finance really the top of our list right now? Or should we be looking more at engagement or community relations? In the past, the boards felt, listed in goal 1, goal 2, goal 3 sort of showed.
So this is like doing your annual review, like 3 quarters of the year. So, I mean, I think when we set these goals, finance was, I think we feel good about where we are with that right now. So that doesn't mean it's not important. It means that we still judge it as, I wouldn't necessarily modify the order or anything like that. I think that at the time we did this, that was where we are. We've already gotten halfway through the year now. So,
Yeah, we just have to done.
Yeah.
Let's just adopt. All right. So if we don't have any changes, recommendations, we're just going to adopt these. They'll be posted on the website. You can think about them. And then next year at the board retreat, we're going to really dig into these again with a fresh perspective and try and adopt them earlier. All right.
I don't have a resolution on the agenda, but I can just recycle.
Great. Let's do that. Thank you.
Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District does hereby adopt the 2023-2024 board goals. Do we have a motion?
so moved.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays. Abstention. Good job, guys. Take this off your agenda. Okay. Now we're moving on to a discussion of the mural. I'm going to briefly introduce this and turn it over to Carl. And this is coming out of the DEI committee. So Jocelyn, please jump in at any point. We have been approached about approval for a mural for this space here. It's something the DEI committee had discussed, possibly with funding from TISA. And they were looking for us to approve it before we move forward.
Yes.
Do you have any more background you want to add to this?
Yeah, I wasn't directly involved in the latest discussion, but I would defer to Jocelyn, I think, or the. But yes, this is the location. You have a beautiful blank canvas staring at you. And actually, the earliest stages of this renovation, we thought about a mural and something permanent, something that represents who we are as a district. But what is the latest thoughts?
This came out of the committee, submitting a grant to GSEC for, certain award limit. And I have the application that was submitted to GSEC, which I can share with the full board so you see what it was all about, but it was pretty much to commission a local artist to collaborate with the students, a group of students at GUFS to create and install a mural. And that was pretty much it. So it's about really working with someone local who's had experience doing it. Coming out of the DEI committee, it's in the spirit of DEI and trying to create something beautiful, but that's also welcoming and inclusive and represents everything going on. I think not only in Garrison, but maybe in the world. And so that's what the grant request was for. And then we were told by GSEC that sounds great, this needs something right here, but the board as a whole, even though this was coming out of the board level committee, the board as a whole has to discuss installing something because it's permanent. Or I guess not permanent.
So that was my first question.
I don't know.
And I think right now what we really want to get to is maybe we have consensus moving forward, but what are questions do we have on this? Because my first question was, well, is it permanent or is it like student work that gets moved every year? Because students are involved in like next year.
I wouldn't do that because then it's perpetual asking for money and hiring of a local artist and this and that. I think there could be value in making this a project that commemorates 2023,
But it would be
2024.
painted on the wall, so it would.
Well, usually murals are like, they're kind of created and then installed. So it might be multiple panels that would go up. I don't think you'd have people on scaffolding up there, but I'm not the artist, I'm doing it. But I don't see why it has to be permanent, but for some reason GSEC assumed it would.
I love the idea of a mural working with an artist. I would think that it would be smart to have it on some sort of material that could be taken down should there get to be renovation or something that happens so that we don't lose it.
Yeah, I agree.
And that it be somehow sealed so that it would, put an artist.
Yeah.
I've seen where they do murals directly on the wall and it's like, oh my gosh, we have a leak. And you have to move something and I don't want to push this room in any way. It would be great if it was like panels or something.
Yeah.
Not me as a board, but so I don't know who, somebody would need to understand the structural integrity of that wall and then the size and shape and makeup of the mural would play a role if it was tile. I'm picturing like, God forbid, like a tile fall down and hit Sarah on the head in the middle of the meeting.
Well, I think that's a fair point that either, I mean, the local artist then who would kind of help, who has probably experience doing it, would then advise us. And do we want to put together a list of don'ts, so to say for them, like don't use tile, and don't paint it right on the wall, for example, things like that, and just have those kinds of, because the grant was written that there would be an RFP issued to the public, and then artists would apply to do this with the students. So as we draft the RFP that would go out publicly, we can include this list of things that we would not recommend happen in learning how.
The only thing, I think that sounds like a really strong process. I would say before it gets put up on the wall, we may want to see it and understand what we would approve before it's up there. So if that's part of
Or maybe like a proposal from the artist, what they're going to, what's the
rendering.
concept.
Yeah. Like, is it a scenic
But do
thing?
we as a
for
board
people?
need to approve that, or is that something that we could defer to Carl to?
We
work
could,
with the
yeah,
artist
just
and approve it?
so that somebody has seen it before it goes up on the wall and says, yes, we fully support this, whatever they decide to print.
So I would say that I think the spirit of the RFP to the artist was that the artist doesn't design it. It's actually collaboration with the students. So if you go through a process working with students to do something, how comfortable are we with being like, well, we don't really like that. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why I'm wondering
I don't know
where
if
to
that's-
check it. It's like, is it saying to the kids, maybe there needs to be whatever the guidance is to them?
But what are we, so, and I think
Yeah.
you all should make a list of the things you don't want, because it's hard to otherwise specify to the student collaborators, like what they should or should not do. You know what I mean? So I think we just need to have that somehow imagined.
How does that work in other districts, Carl?
Is there a way, like, is there an educator who's partnering with the artist to help guide the process of the students? They can help bring the students to the place they need to be?
You know, honestly, I haven't, I've done murals before, but typically a mock-up, a proposal is made, and then the building administrator, or district administrator approves it. But, I also think of like a lot of public memorials and art projects. Usually you submit a proposal, and sometimes you receive various, maybe a half dozen that can come from students, and maybe there is some kind of committee that can decide, like, what do we want to make permanent? It's just a thought. Because students look, they may have a great idea, or they may have an idea that we don't think is completely appropriate for.
I normally I'm all for collaboration. This is a case where that doesn't, I don't know, I have it gives me a funny feeling. I mean, this is an artistic undertaking. What I would hope we would find is an accomplished muralist has a track record, who's done some extraordinary murals, and this is going to be something that could really add value to this community. I mean, it could be really striking and beautiful, and have all kinds of artistic, aesthetic qualities that probably don't come out of a consensus building session. So my preference, I mean, I don't, I wouldn't fight for this, but too hard, but would be to just think about getting somebody, not necessarily from Phillipstown, I mean, it could be from any place, right? I mean, a really qualified muralist who could do something permanent up there, whether they're actually drawing it, hanging it up on the wall, or some other way. But to see what a really talented muralist can do, I mean, and have a piece of art in this building that's sui generis, and that's inspiring or challenging, or both.
It sounds like we have a clear consensus that we like the idea, right? I mean, I think
We want a miracle.
the idea of a mural is great. I feel like we can, the RFP gives us an opportunity to brainstorm some criteria that we think are important for the next phase. I would be, I would be reluctant to portray it as something that's going to be permanent. I think it should be something that is, as it gets installed, and it could become permanent, but it doesn't need to be permanent. And maybe even if we don't want it to be, I love the idea of the kids being involved in the process. But maybe that's part of the RFP, is that the artist agrees to collaborate with the school community on the development of a proposal or an idea. Not necessarily, and maybe, goes into the classes and, shares ideas and inspiration and things like that. And then, comes back with a more refined concept or something like that.
Was the hope that the students would actually paint the mural?
I don't think
That
that
the
was,
students would paint the mural?
I don't think that was,
Part of it.
decided on, but also not, like, I don't think there was any stipulation for it, but I also don't think that was necessarily the intention. Because I think it was meant to, bring in someone who's a professional.
But that could be something that we
But it's
we
fine.
defer to, maybe.
It's a
we have-
question, it's an RFP, it's
Right.
what would your process be to include students, whether it's a teachable moment, and then they're actually painting it, but they're teaching about the process versus the students painting.
Because in districts that I worked in, we've had people come in, work with kids, come up with an idea, actually come up with a variety of ideas. They were approved by the superintendent. They did a vote of which one they wanted. And then the muralists worked with the students in the after school club to actually paint at least the base of it. And then the muralist kind of touched it up, right? But it was like a community effort, and There was one night where parents were invited to come if they wanted to paint a little square.
That's good.
And then everybody who was involved in it got to sign what they required the painting of this.
That's, it also would be nice, you know, you include kids at different levels, like,
You got everyone in the school to paint.
yeah. And at the end, it's owned by the mural, it's their vision. But
So then just related to these kind of suggestions, did the RFP stipulate we should include a community forum and include this, or should we leave the freedom up to the artists? And then when we get the proposals back, the committee, which includes 3 board members,
Yeah.
plus, you know, Allison and several others on the DEI committee, can look at all of these proposals and be like, well, this one jives with what it seems like we want, or like, how do we?
Joe, I know aren't RFPs generally that you're looking for the lowest responsible bidder in order to complete a project?
Well, I don't think it doesn't have to be
Well,
traditional RFP.
That's
It's
a
not-
bid,
That's a bid.
a bid versus a professional service.
a
Okay,
professional
so
service.
professional service, you have more leeway into what you're allowed to do, and whether if you have an established relationship or you believe that there's a certain advantage with going with a particular person, you don't necessarily have to go.
And it would be the foundation would be going out for the RFP and not the booster.
You're correct, because you know the money is coming from them. It should be generated by them.
can you help them generate it? Is that appropriate or?
Yes.
They might need, that might be.
So can ChatGPT.
Joe's also probably already sure what the structural integrity of this wall is.
Yes. But I like leaving the question open and seeing what the artists come back with. Because I don't, you know, maybe an artist has done this before and has like, I go in and I do this with K1 students and preschool students, and I do this with middle school students. We're unique that we're pre-K to 8 as well. So the approach is that like what they do with each group might be different.
I agree, and let me just throw one
No,
quick
no.
thing out there. The grant that we requested was for $5,000. So all of the things that you're suggesting are probably way above what would cover that, which is fine. It just means that like, you know,
Well,
we might
another,
just get a smaller, you know, with
You
less
could go
community
through arts and
involvement.
you could go through arts and education too, where you might get another more cost.
That's part of it,
we've
for
done
sure.
GSEP grants through the arts and education in order to have the deferred costs.
I think we would request whoever applies for that, no matter what, anyway.
It also, with, I mean, depending on the timeline too, if this is something that might take longer, everything seems to take longer than expected. I don't know if the goal is to have it up this year, maybe this won't work, but if you're thinking forward to the spring thaw, this could be sort of foundational fundraising piece for that spring thaw of like everybody, if it's going to be a community project, everybody contributes a little bit. But I don't know how long it takes to paint a mural or design.
It sounds like as you're throwing out spring thaw and timing, GSEP already said, this is a great idea, we support it, really the board has to discuss it. I think it'd be like, a conversation with them, of would they really want to take this? Is this really in their goals of what they would want to focus on? I don't know.
Well, then, I mean, I think it's worth going to them and saying, you know, putting the RFP out, however we do it. And then if it comes back as something that's beyond their cost scope, we're in our budgeting process, is filling this wall a focus of ours as well. And what is the educational component associated with it? We're at the right point in time in the process where we look at that versus over the summer. I mean, I'd love to have GSEP support for this, and I want to ensure that it matches their mission in terms of, I think you have to have the children involved to match their mission. I think if you just hired artists who would go with the GSEP mission.
Yeah.
There has to be education.
Okay.
Are there questions we haven't answered that you have, or the committee had, or GSEP had?
Yeah, no, I didn't have any questions specifically, did I review? I think it was more of GSEP just making sure.
So I think what we can go back to them with is we have consensus to approve the idea of a mural and to go out for an RFP to look at what artists will consider. And then we would like those RFPs reviewed by the DEI committee in conjunction with our administrative staff going forward. Everybody, does that sound about right to everyone? Okay. that's where we're at. Right. We will now move on from the discussion of the discussion of the March Board of Education meetings. All right. As I stated in the beginning, we have a lot of meetings early in the month. We currently have a meeting scheduled for March 27th, which is a Wednesday evening. It would be our third budget presentation to the public. However, it would be also after a Saturday morning budget presentation, which will happen. Like it's a community forum. Those are generally tend to be one of our best attended budget presentation events. Spring break starts that Thursday, so I don't think that attendance will be up that high that Wednesday night. I'll let you know I'm not available to be here that Wednesday night, so you're going to have to report me about this meeting. The 27th. I am wondering. Dusty says it's possible based on where we are with business and with how much we're going to be spending time together at the beginning of the month. If anyone is comfortable eliminating this from our schedule, if you feel we need this one, we can do it. But it's really, I'm just tossing the idea out there. You know, I love a meeting and I usually would do this, but
How many board members do we need for forums?
well, we're 7, so you need 4.
I'm unavailable on the 27th, so someone else is unavailable. It might make sense to.
I think with given where we are with the budget and how many people would likely come out to make this their meeting that they're going to attend about the budget, I do, just to reference, the next meeting would be April 10th, and because spring break goes up until then, that is our deadline to adopt the budget and approve it. So like that would be the last meeting to make changes. So
when would be the meeting? When's the meeting scheduled for before the March 27th?
the 13th, I believe.
March 13th, and that's when I think you would have a community budget forum. That'd be an opportunity for the community to ask questions about the budget before it's adopted.
And then the community
And the
forum-
Saturday.
Yeah, the Saturday and the Saturday. The forums are different from our usual public comment in that we do actually respond in that situation, like setup. So it's a little more informal. We can share, actually answer questions versus public comment. So it does lead to more dialogue. Given finance committee.
I think that we could plan on canceling the 27th, and then based on the 2 meetings we have with the community about the budget, perhaps there's an opportunity if we felt we needed it as a group to do a meeting on the 20th.
That the Wednesday before.
Yeah.
I would be amenable to that.
Wait, so the community forum is on the 20th.
There's one on the 13th. It's a community forum, and then there's a Saturday on the 16th.
Oh, so yeah.
So if there was, if we feel like the community really wants to talk really deeply into this budget, and not, we don't feel like we're giving them the opportunity by canceling the 27th, we certainly could probably get 4 of us here on the 20th.
I'll go to the 20th if anyone wants to talk about the budget.
So would we, if we wanted to make changes to the draft budget as a board, we could not do that in the community forum, correct? On
We
the
can.
weekend one?
Yeah, not on the weekend one. No, we have to call a meeting. Usually what we do for those is it's just finance committee members, like 1 or 2 of us will show up, and a chance for really the community to come and share their thoughts, dialogue with Carl and Joe.
So they understand the
But it's
budget.
not a board meeting,
Right.
there's no quorum on that.
But so we would, so March 13th, where we have a meeting, which is also a community forum. If we wanted to make changes to the draft budget before April 10th, which is our deadline to adopt, right? Then we would have to have a special meeting in order to vote on those changes. Is that right?
You wouldn't need to vote on them. The only voting that's going to happen on the budget will be on April 10th. So we could. The
But if you wanted to
finance
review it.
committee- Yeah, if you wanted to review it in public, the finance committee could meet and go through suggestions and propose a different budget for the 10th for the board to review. It doesn't give the board as much time. Dusty, when is the formal New York State requirement? It's not as early as the 10th. I believe it's a little bit later in April, right? It's gotta be like the 17th.
I'm not sure on that one this year, that the schedule's a little bit different because we also have our BOSI's budget vote on the 16th. So we have back-to-back meetings that are 6 days apart. And we initially had that scheduled for the 23rd and 15th.
I just remember from last year, O'Neill kept pushing their budget out because New York State had provided any numbers, and eventually I think they adopted a budget without New York State's numbers, because the governor didn't later. So I'm wondering if if we decide on the 10th, like we need more time, is the 16th an option for us as well to adopt budget?
That's the
Joe,
24 days before the budget vote.
24 days of the budget vote.
I think it's the calendar. days.
See. And then we can go to the end of April for real punch. The budget goes on the 21st.
We really start to get into pushing the timeline, get absentees out.
So that's the
Mail
concern.
voting, that's where the concern really starts to, push.
And we
it.
have propositions this year that we also, that's for contracts with our high schools.
Yeah. And once the budget's adopted, then I've got to get all that stuff on the ballots that have got to be ready to go out. So for 24, you said 24 days? Okay.
Would be that Saturday, April 27th.
But then if we had the 16th as a possible date, we have to meet with the policy budget then too. If we're not comfortable with the budget on the 10th, we could approve it
You
on
could
the
put it on the
16th and
16th as well.
the deadline as well.
Yeah.
Seems that way, yes.
Meaning we don't need to meet on the 20th.
Meaning we don't need to meet on the 20th, we could just push it to the 10th. Gives Joe more time to, if we have big changes.
Yeah.
Process.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with canceling the meeting. So, I mean, if we can put something on last minute, if need be, just want to make sure we have the time to do it if we want to.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, I think we have more space. Okay. So we would have this ability to meet on the 10th, just to the 16th for approval. Right. Are we all comfortable with that? I think so. Yes, I see it. All right, I'm going to read, motion that be resolved, Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District does hereby amend the 2023-2024 board meeting schedule by removing the March 27th, 2024 business meeting. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions. I will also just note, we have not amended the board meeting calendar to add the interview dates. Those, because we're meeting, those will be posted and notified to the public, but just in case you need to switch those up at the last minute to make Dusty's life easier, we are not leaving off the official calendar.
So we're getting an updated official calendar without the things,
And those will be special meetings.
but just with the 27th taken out.
Yeah. Okay, we are now up to public comment section of the evening. All right. Public comment is intended for members of the community to speak openly and voice concerns in accordance with policy 1510 of the Garrison Union Free School District. Any person wishing to speak shall comply with all provisions of this policy. Comments about specific school personnel or individual students is a violation of board policy. Concerns regarding students or personnel should be discussed privately with the superintendent or appropriate administrator. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes, and speakers are asked to conduct themselves in a respectful manner. The board will listen to comments but will not engage in dialogue. Any necessary follow-up will be noted and provided through the appropriate channel. Members of the public wishing to comment during board meetings are asked to place their name and town of residence on the sign-in sheet. Commenters will be invited to the podium to address the board. Okay. I have the sign-in sheet. We're going to go ahead and close public comment then, but we'll come back to it again later on. All right. Moving on. Accepting the minutes. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District does hereby accept the minutes of the regular business meeting of December 6, 2023 as presented. May I have a motion, please? So moved. Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstention. All right. Now we move on to the treasurer's report and claims audit report. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District does hereby approve the treasurer's report for November 2023 and further accepts the claims audit report for December 2023 as presented. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Do I have any questions for Joe, or Joe, do you have anything you'd like to add regarding the treasurer's report and claims audit report?
No.
Any questions, anybody?
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
So it looks like we're again doing pretty well on interest and things like that, and everything else seems to be coming in above or at budget in terms of the things, the revenue that's been earned? Would you say that where we are, I know this is just November, but so far, things appear to be on target or maybe possibly a little over budget at this point?
In terms of, well, that revenue, we're gonna do better than budgeted for interest, for example. Right, that's definitely one. We're gonna do better than budgeted. As far as expenditures, we're in the frame of what we anticipate this time, so. That's what do have a number of things that have gone our way as far as special education tuition and some other items, so looking good.
And then I know we still have a large intra-fund transfer that's been authorized, right? But we haven't actually done that yet, correct? Sure. Is that something that we don't do if we are in the surplus of a certain amount? Or
Okay, so you're talking about the use of the
600K or something?
right, so applying the undesignated fund balance and reserves to support the budget.
Yeah.
That will, what actually ends up as the total will depend upon how close we are at the end here. So we don't although we did move out of the reserves into the undesignated fund balance to support the year, we can, before the end of the year, decide to move some of it back or do whatever it is required. As we get closer to the end, we know how close the revenue projection is going to be to when we're actually the further you go out, the less certain you are. So we're getting into in developing a budget. We have for adopting a budget, we have a better knowledge of where we're going to end up.
Yeah,
we do this right now.
And so, again, I know this is a lot uncertain early in the process, but if we continue to have a surplus of revenue and sort of on target for expenditures, as we seem to, at least initially, we could use less of the undesignated fund balance, which could then go back into reserves and be used for next year's budget.
Correct. Right. Yeah, the better it is, the easier it is to plan for the following year.
And we were at the end of last year sitting at what, 11%? So we're pretty high right now.
Yeah, so we need to develop a plan and how we're going to get closer to the actual targets that we have for those reserves, because a lot of them are under what we have for targets. So I think that will be part of the discussion as well. The budget is to what can we do to get the planning more towards getting those to the targets they're set, because basically it's multiples of what we think the annual expenditures are how the targets are developed. Like, a lot of them are not at even one multiple.
All right. That answered your question. Good. Any other questions before we move to a vote? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstentions. Next, we move on to CSE, CPSE recommendations. Be resolved, Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District approve the Committee on Special Education, CSE, and the Committee on Preschool Special Education recommendations and student placements. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstentions. All right, now we move on to policy readings. So we're in second readings of these policies, and Courtney, jump in here with whatever you want. It's our Chair of Policy Committee. I'm going to start with the second reading and approval of policy 6121, sexual harassment in the workplace. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of Courtney McCarthy, Policy Committee Chair, does hereby approve policy 6121, sexual harassment in the workplace as presented. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
you have any questions or further thoughts on this policy before we move to approval? Right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstentions. Next, we move to a second reading and approval of policy 3420, non-discrimination and anti-harassment in the district. Be it resolved, Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, on the recommendation of Courtney McCarthy, Policy Committee Chair, does hereby approve policy 3420, non-discrimination and anti-harassment in the district as presented. May I have a motion, please? Do I have any questions on policy 3420 as presented? All right. I go ahead and move to approval. All in favor? Please say aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstentions. All right, now we have a second reading and approval of policy 5140, administration of the budget. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of Courtney McCarthy, Policy Committee Chair, does hereby approve policy 5140, administration of the budget as presented. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Do you have any questions or further comment on the second reading of policy 5140? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstentions. Thank you. Thank you, Policy Committee. Next, we move on to the consent agenda. Get resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of Carl L. Albano, Superintendent, does hereby approve the items of the personnel consent agenda as presented. May I have a motion, please? Thank you. There are a few items on here, including members to the Budget Advisory Committee. Thank you, Jen, as Chair. I want to speak to this.
I just wanted to take a moment to thank Mr. Connor and Mr. Corrigan from the community who have extensive experience with solar, and we look forward to working with them, and also to thank Mr. Yap for being willing to serve on the committee. And we are holding our first meeting later this month, and we're excited to be able to come back to the finance committee with information.
Can you by any chance remind us what that date is later this month? And if not, that's okay.
I believe it's Monday, January 22nd, it's 5:30.
Thank you.
Great. Do I have any questions for Jennifer as our chair regarding the appointments of community members to the Budget Advisory Committee, our new committee this year?
I would just add, I know Jesse Connor, he's in the community, he's got 20 years of experience. He will likely be a Gus parent in the next couple of years. He's got a young daughter, and he lives right down the street. So I think he'll be a great addition to the Budget Advisory Committee and has great experience.
And the resume you received is very impressive.
Wonderful that community members are excited about being involved, and hopefully this speaks to our board goal of engagement with the community. All right. Next, we have the appointment of the staff of Mr. Yap. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Yap, for agreeing to serve on the committee. We have the co-advisors for the student council. This is just a correction. We had the wrong advisors listed last time. And then we have a teaching assistant and another substitute. Part-time monitor. Did you wish to speak to these, Carl?
Just the teaching assistant is for our special education program. Our current teaching assistant is pursuing student teaching, so must resign. And we are going to accommodate her here in Garrison. She did a wonderful job. We thank her. And we're very excited about our new candidate. If the board approves Sebastian Spida, he has 7 years of experience working in special education programs. He's also pursuing a degree in applied behavior analysis, and that is something very valuable for our program. So we think he's well qualified and do a good job. And also substitutes, some of our substitutes have moved on to next steps in their teaching careers. So Mrs. Amig has recommended a certified teacher to come on board and be a per diem sub, but will be here regularly. First one in for when a teacher is absent. And then the part-time monitor, I think I would just say, we only have one monitor. And she's done an outstanding job over the past 4 years. You know, we watched her take on more and more responsibility. She's very valuable in the main office. So I am recommending to the board an increase of $1.50 per hour. Currently at 17. I'd like to increase that to 18.50. Is in favor of that.
Do I have any questions, Carl, on those items on the consent agenda before we move to a vote? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstention. Next, we move on to new business. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby approves the memorandum of agreement by and between the district and the Garrison Teachers Association dated December 19th, 2023 for a successor collective bargaining agreement, authorizes the superintendent to execute the agreement and ratifies and approves the payment of money contained therein. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
How would you want to speak to this at all?
Yes, I'm just pulling up some notes to summarize. I'm sorry.
Our legal counsel here, I'll start by
Give me a
thanking
second.
our legal counsel for all their work on the collective bargaining agreement and thank the teachers union for working with us on this.
Yes. So, pardon me for losing my place here. Just to summarize, we're entering into a 3-year agreement with our Teachers Association. The salary increases are in year 1, 1.85%, year 2, 1.6%, year 3, 1.5%. That is very aligned with the contract settlements in our region. Also, we are increasing our contribution, the district's contribution to the welfare fund, which is dental, vision, and life insurance policy. We're adding $50 in year 1 and an additional $50 in year 2 because that fund has been falling short. It hasn't been increased in many years. And we're hoping with $1,500 per employee, that will make them whole. The district is receiving an increase in employees' health contributions. Currently, they're at 13.25. Joe? Oh, no, I'm sorry, 13.75. They'll be increasing in year 1 to 15% contribution for health, in year 2, 16%, and in year 3 of the contract, they will contribute 17%. And that is also more in line with what other teacher contracts are giving at this point in time. I want to thank the GTA. It was a very professional and good productive process. Of course, you have opposing wants and limited resources, but really it was a very professional process all the way through, and GTA was wonderful, and we got to the right place. So we're happy to recommend this to the board.
I'll just add that those increases that you see are on top of STEP. Steps are outlined as well in the contract, and that the GTA is the sort of third group, if you will, to come in to increase their contribution to healthcare. Healthcare has been a significant in our budgets. Costs are continuing to increase. Consortium continues to go up. We've asked administrators to increase their contribution. We started there. The SRP unit did as well. So this is in line with that. Do I have any questions on the agreement as presented? The GTA has ratified this.
And those raises that we talked about are retroactive back to July 1st, right, for all
Yes.
teachers.
That's correct. All right. Any other questions? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstentions. Next, we have a request for approval of health and welfare services. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby approves the contract for health and welfare services with the Arlington Central School District for the 2022-2023 school year for one student for an amount totaling $927.45. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Do you have any questions regarding this contract, this approval as presented? Next, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstentions. All right, we come to our second public comment section of this evening. I'm not going to read my paragraph again, but it does apply if anyone wishes to speak. Comment sheet. Still don't have any public here, but okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close public comment. Going to move on to board member comment and other discussion. Jocelyn, you're up first. All right, David.
Nothing.
Okay, Jennifer.
Can you come back to me in 1 second?
Absolutely. Dan.
Just want to, commend you guys as well for, all the work you put into the, negotiating the new, GTA contract. A lot goes into that. And I'm glad, for the teachers that there'll be a retroactive raise, which, I'm sure is very well deserved.
Brittany.
No comment.
Pat.
Same as Dan.
Dan
And I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for all of your hard work on the contract with the teachers, and also just to wish everyone happy.
Okay, I have no further comment. You've heard enough from me this evening, so we're going to go ahead to executive session. Be resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby enters into executive session for the purpose of receiving probationary instructional staff being considered for tenure and for the purpose of receiving legal counsel. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Nays, abstention. We will adjourn without any further action being taken. Please log out of everything on your computer and shut it down. Thank you.